So welcome to tonight's show. I'm really privileged to have with me tonight Lisa Kruse, who is with Phillips Cruises, but she also is with the Anchorage Visitors Bureau and the Whittier Visitors Bureau. And we're going to talk about some of the amazing options that are available in Whittier. There's a lot of things to see and do, more than I expected when I started looking at it. Let me bring Lisa into the conversation here. So Lisa, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and your roles with both in Anchorage and in Whittier, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our little video tonight. My name's Lisa Kruse, and I work for Phillips Cruises and Tours. We are a Glacier Tour provider, and we do day cruises out of the Port of Whittier, which is about an hour and a half south of Anchorage. And when I'm not working for Phillips Cruises and Tours, I like to volunteer my time with the Greater Whittier Chamber of Commerce. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what you can see and do in Whittier. And then I'm based in Anchorage, and I'm also on the Visit Anchorage Board of Directors. I'm the chair this year. So I'll give you little tips and tricks on how to get in and out of Anchorage as well to kind of tie it all together.
That'd be perfect. So to start with, I'm on a cruise ship. I pull into the port in Whittier, and what should I think about doing?
Well, we do get Princess Cruises and Holland America Cruises is scheduled to visit us in 2021. And so if you're traveling on either of those two cruise lines, we would love to see you in Whittier. The ships dock quite early in the morning. And if you're not connecting immediately to a land tour, you have time to explore the Port of Whittier. So our town, as I like to say, it's about half a mile in any direction, and it makes a triangle shape. So from the cruise ship dock, it's half a mile to the end of town. And that area we do call the triangle. That's where the gift shops and restaurants are at. From there, it's about half a mile through an underground tunnel. It goes underneath the rail tracks over to the museum. And you can learn a lot about the early days of Whittier, the native people who used to live there, the World War II effort that brought Whittier to life, and then the tunnel that they built to get to Whittier. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure. And then it's a half a mile back to the cruise ship port. So just on your own accord, you can walk about the town and see quite a lot of things, but there's also a number of tour operators in Whittier, and I'd be happy to tell you more about them.
Okay, so let me ask a question, because like I said, this channel does deal with people that have mobility challenges. So how's Whittier for wheelchairs and scooters?
So there is a little bit of gravel along the way, so some small rocks along the pavement, but there is paved streets now. That was something that came to Whittier about 10 years ago, which was very exciting for us. And then there is a boardwalk. It's, like any typical wooden boardwalk, it has its highs and lows, but I think if you were fairly stable in your chair, you could make that path just quite easily. Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that. We've been done boardwalks. My wife and I, we were in Seward in late May of last year, and they have a boardwalk that kind of goes around from the downtown area over by the port, and we were able to use that without any problems. So Pam is with us, and she said something to do and head to Anchorage to the hotel for the night. We'll talk about that, Pam, because that may be what you want to do. It may not. So if we're going to do tours in Whittier, it seemed like most of them are water centric.
That would be the case, yeah. Prince William Sound is a spectacular playland, and it's where a lot of the locals get out and play. They'll have their boats or their water sports, and they go explore. And that is the main tourism activity. There's also the Alaska Railroad that comes into Whittier. And so if you're a train enthusiast, you could meet the train right there in Whittier and ride the train about Alaska too.
Okay, yeah, we did the train to Seward from Anchorage, and it was an amazing trip. I'm a train buff, so in fact, next week we have Jackie from the White Pass is going to be on the show to talk about trains in
Jackie. Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us about, because I didn't realize, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I am believing that maybe in Prince William Sound you can see more glaciers in one spot than you can pretty much anywhere else that you would go to.
That's true. Prince William Sound is one of the most highly concentrated areas to view tidewater glaciers in particular in Alaska. And the company I work for, Phillips Cruises and Tours, we've been doing tours since 1958. And in 1987, we developed the route that we still use today. It's called the 26 Glacier Cruise because there's 26 glaciers along the route. So it's a really beautiful trip. We dock right next to the cruise ship terminal. So it's an easy access from the cruise terminal. You literally come out the front door of the terminal, you make a U-turn, it's all paved, and you come right into the boarding area for our cruise. And then depending on the height of the tide at the time we're boarding or disembarking our boat, we can provide assistance up and down the ramp. Because sometimes it's smooth, no problem. And other times coming back, you might feel like you're going up Denali or something.
Yeah, huge differences in tides in that part of the world. So tell me about the 26 Glacier Tours. I saw you offer three variations of Glacier Tours, but tell us about the 26 and tell us about your guarantee. I think you have an interesting guarantee.
Yeah. So the 26 Glacier Cruise was developed by Brad Phillips, and we connect easily to the railroad, the coach service, the cruise lines, and independent travelers. So we have a good mix of customers on board. The boats that we operate are all catamarans, so they're high speed, two-hull, H-U-L-L, double hull boats. So they're very stable. And I tell folks it's like if you stand on one foot, you might not be very stable. But if you put both feet down on the ground or both wheels on your chair, right? You don't want to tip. If both wheels firmly on the deck, it's nice and stable on board our boat. Over the last couple years, the owner not only invested in a new boat, but he did a complete refit on the Klondike Express and the Bravest, which is our newest boat. And with that refit, we generated spaces on board the boat that are ADA accessible. So both boats have tables where there's no chair at that location. So if you're someone who's fully reliant on your chair during the entire journey with us, you can just roll your chair right up to the table and have easy access to visit with your friends and family that you're traveling with. And I think we're the only company that has that setup on board our boats.
Oh, very cool. And I'm thinking it was your website because I looked at several today, but have a no seasickness guarantee?
We do, yeah. The no seasickness guarantee comes for two reasons. One, we're in Prince William Sound, and the area that we cruise in geographically is protected by a series of islands called the Barrier Islands. So from the Gulf of Alaska, you have to go past the Barrier Islands and then come up into the upper left-hand corner of Prince William Sound before you get to the point where we're cruising. And we're up in College Fjord and Blackstone Bay. So not only are we far away from the marine influence that the Gulf of Alaska can generate, but we're cruising in these long, narrow fjords. And so the water is typically calm in Prince William Sound. And then the design of our boats that I was speaking to earlier, that stable double hull design, they're nice and broad, they're nice and large. Our boats are 127 and 137 feet long, so they're nice, stable boats. And people remark all the time how comfortable they were on board and how shocked they were that they didn't get seasick.
Yeah, and I kind of asked that question in particular. We have Pam with us, and I know she's a little worried about motion sickness, so I wanted to make sure that we talked about that for Pam. And we have a question. Do your tours include lunch?
Yes, they do. Yep. And we have three options for folks. So everybody coming to Alaska, myself included, loves salmon. And so our featured meal is a wild Alaska smoked salmon chowder. And then if you're not a fan of the chowder, that's okay. We have a hearty vegetarian chili for you, and that chili is gluten-free. So if you have a guest that you're booking with us or you yourself need a gluten-free meal, just let us know. And that chili comes with gluten-free sides as well. And then if you have kids traveling with us, we have a kids meal, and that's portion size for someone who's age 2 through 11, but we have adults order it sometimes too. And that's an all beef hot dog, chips, and a fruit snack.
Now, so a little bit of something for everybody.
That's right.
Now, so let's talk about logistics. We come in on the cruise ship, it's going to dock pretty early in the morning. How does it work to do the 26 Glacier Tour and then try to get to Anchorage the same day?
Sure. So we partner with the cruise lines and they sell our tour on board the ship. So if you are booking right through your cruise line and you want to book the shore excursion directly through them, you certainly can do that. All the timing is matched out perfectly. They would come off the ship at about 11:15 in the morning, and then, just like I said, walk that right around the horseshoe there and come over to our boarding area. We'll give you your boarding cards. We'll get you right on board our cruise. Following the cruise, we have a coach waiting for you, and that coach takes you to Anchorage and it drops you off at the hotels. So we make it really seamless for you.
Okay, now does that coach work only if you book through the cruise line, or can they book directly through you and still get the coach service?
They can absolutely book directly through us and still get the coach. And I will note that if you are not able to navigate 2 or 3 steps, we also have the Alaska Railroad available, and they have a lift. So the train with the lift is sometimes a good option for folks, or if we have advance notice and our motor coach carrier can bring one of the coaches down with a lift, then we can certainly make that available as well.
Okay, so how does the timing work on the train?
Sure, yeah. The cruise docks at 6:20, and the coach would be right there in the parking lot waiting for the guests. The train is just across the street, and it's easy to get over there, easy path to navigate. And the train boards at 6:30 and leaves at 6:45. So everything is designed to fit together, just like from the shoulder to the elbow to the hand. You know, it works well.
Okay, well, that sounds like you guys have got things worked out really amazingly. So let me ask about this in reverse. So now I'm coming in, I fly into Anchorage, and I want to take a cruise with you guys before I get on the ship. So
that works too. Imagine that. We figured that one out too. So we have a coach that picks up at 3 main locations in Anchorage, and those hotels are compatible with hotels that the cruise lines use that are docking in Whittier. So we pick up right there, anywhere from 8:45 in the morning to 9:15, depending on which hotel you're at. We bring you right down to Whittier. When we come into Whittier, we come right into the parking lot. You just transfer over to the cruise, get on, do the 26 Glacier Cruise, and then following our tour, you just walk over to the cruise ship terminal and check in. Yeah.
Okay.
Right
now, so can you do the train in the morning and catch? Yeah. That works too. And so Pam asked her question. She has a foldable scooter, and she wants to know, could she get that put on the bus? Because she, if I remember correctly, Pam can navigate a few steps to get up into the coach. So could they put her scooter underneath for her?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So anytime that we are alerted that we have a guest with some physical difficulties, we always reach out to them directly, and we ask them, you know, do you need to be using your wheelchair during the entire length of your journey? Is it mainly to get from point A to point B and then you're okay and you transfer to a booth? Are you traveling with an electric wheelchair, a manual wheelchair, a scooter? Do you just walk slower and you need some extra time? Or maybe you don't like to go up and down ramps. So we ask, how can we best assist you? And then from that question, we typically get the answers pretty directly from our guests, and they tell us exactly what they need to be able to do our tour. And then we reply with how we can accommodate that. So
okay, that sounds pretty amazing. And just for Pam, if that coach is on the Alaskan Railroads like the one they had going to Seward, it has the elevator lift.
Yes.
So if you took the train, or Marvin, if your wife took the train, that means that you can get on the train in Whittier and think about where we were, and go to Anchorage or come from Anchorage and get off the train there. I don't know how it is in Whittier, but in Seward, they actually have like a manually hand cranked elevator that they use to let people. So it's the same thing there.
Same idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So they can get you up and down. So that works really well. The train, like I said, if you're a train fan, and I am definitely a train fan. Okay. That is, like I said, I would love that trip too. So you had some slides you were going to show us?
Oh yeah, let me see if I can pull those up for you here.
Okay, I'm going to put you on put your slide presentation up. Just let me know when you're ready.
Should be ready to go.
Okay.
So this is just a quick overview, and how much time do you want me to allow for this?
Yeah, you can have as much as you need.
Okay. So here's a quick shot of our 2 boats. The Bravest is our newest vessel, and then the Klondike Express. And as I mentioned, Phillips Cruises and Tours, we've been exploring this area since 1958. We were the pioneer in the day cruise industry for leading Glacier Tours, and we've continued that tradition forward over time. This gives you an idea of our cruise routes. So you can see on the left, can you see my mouse if I move that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I'm pointing at Anchorage and then Girdwood, which is where Alyeska Resort is, and a number of our guests will stay at Alyeska Resort, especially on the Holland America programs, and then they'll transfer from Girdwood down to Whittier. So once you get to Whittier, then the 26th Glacier Cruise is what we pair with our cruise line packages, and you can see we're going to go out through Port Wells, up into College Fjord. You can start counting the glaciers already. We're going to go all the way to the face of Harvard Glacier, and Harvard's been spectacular this summer. She's been calving just about every day and giving us lots of opportunity to hear that thunderous crash of the ice coming into the sea, and then casting a lot of icebergs and bergy bits out in front of her that the harbor seals and the sea otters haul out onto. So that's been a lot of fun to see that this summer. From there, we cruise down into Esther Passage, and this is a narrow passageway. We're going to slow the boat down, open the doors, let folks be out on the outer decks as we're cruising through Esther Passage, because when we're coming through Port Wells, we're going at 32 knots, and it's pretty cool. You'll lose your sunglasses or your hat if they're not on tight. So as we come down through Esther Passage, we're going to go to an area called Eggs Rock, and that's where a stellar sea lion habitat is. They haul out there in the summer. And if you're a birder, we also have a lot of cormorants that come to that area. From there, we head down into Blackstone Bay, and there's 7 different glaciers down in Blackstone Bay that we're going to view before we make our way back to a kittiwake rookery and then back to Whittier.
Yeah, very cool.
So this is a quick picture of Berry Arm, and you can see this ice in the front of the photo came off of those glaciers and has now drifted forward. So at 2003, I believe it was, all 3 of these glaciers were joined together. So they have receded quite a bit over time, but this slide just gives you a quick look at a few of the types of glaciers that we see. Obviously, the tidewater glaciers are the ones that touch the ocean water. Piedmont Glacier would be one that terminates on land, and Portage Glacier would be an example of a Piedmont Glacier. And then alpine glaciers are these ones that are up higher along the mountaintops. So on a typical season, we have the Chugach National Forest Service on board our boats. This year, a lot of things are not quite so typical. So we did not have the rangers on board this summer, but our captains have been with us for about 10 years, and they know the narration forwards and backwards. And so they've been providing the tour this summer, but we are hoping to have the rangers back on board in 2021. And if you're traveling with any young folks, age 2 through 11 or school-age children, they do a junior ranger program where the kids can earn their junior ranger badge for completing their activity book, and then they take an oath during the day. It's really cute to see. And we talked about the meal choices. Here's just a quick rundown again of the offerings. So in addition to the chowder or the chili, we include a fresh Julienne vegetable salad that has a coleslaw type dressing, a multigrain roll, oyster crackers, a fruit snack, a cheese stick, and a York peppermint patty, which this summer, since we're requiring everyone to wear a mask while they cruise with us, that York peppermint patty has come in handy. Here's a good shot of South Central Alaska, and this shows you the location of Whittier, where we are up here in Prince William Sound on the upper west side. These are those barrier islands that I was talking about earlier, and down here where the text is, that's where the Gulf of Alaska is located. So another popular cruising area is called Kenai Fjords National Park, and those cruises depart out of Seward, and so you can see they come right out into the Gulf of Alaska here as they round the corner to get back to their glaciers. And I think we're pretty lucky where we're at. We don't get that marine influence, and we can still see a lot of glaciers, and we've been seeing a lot of wildlife this summer too. We talked about our no seasickness guarantee. Ken, here's a great shot of the bow of the boat here and those double holes that you can see riding nice and stable on the water there. And one thing we'd like to hand out to our guests is a complimentary souvenir called the Captain's Log. And it talks about the wildlife, the cruise route, the glaciers, and we translate that into 3 different languages. The English is printed and available on board. Japanese, Korean, and Chinese are available for download on our website. And we found that that has worked the best with our international travelers who might have luggage restrictions or weight restrictions. They don't want to pick up a lot of paperwork, but they're very happy to look at it on their phone or when they get home. So that has worked out well. Here's just another quick idea of where we are located in Alaska. So we're in South Central, and here's Anchorage. Girdwood is where Alyeska Resort is again. You probably have heard of the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. This is a popular stop for many of our self-drive guests, where you can see moose, muskox, wood bison, elk, black bear, grizzly bear, and wolves all in the same tour. And then coming through to Whittier, you get to go through the tunnel. So the Whittier Tunnel is 2.5 miles long. It's the longest shared rail and vehicle tunnel in North America. And customers will pay a toll on the entrance side of $13 per car. And then when they come into Whittier, they can stay for as long as they want. When it's time to leave, there is no toll to depart Whittier. So it's very convenient if you're driving down to Whittier. It's 1 mile exactly to our parking lot. This little red roof is our office, and this white roof here is the cruise ship terminal. So you can see how close we are to the cruise ship terminal. And then just across, kind of at the top of where this blue marker is where the Alaska Railroad stops. So everything is very well connected. And then just to the left, it's half a mile to the end of town. This gives you a quick rundown on the timing for the cruise. And I do see I'm going to have to update that for next summer. Our cruise route changed slightly this year, and that's due to going all the way back to Harvard Glacier. We needed a little extra time. So the return times are all 1 hour later than what you see on the screen. So our return to Anchorage is going to be 8:30 p.m. and the Anchorage airport would be 9 p.m. And I will update that for you, Ken, before I send you the slides.
Okay, thank you.
I talked about connecting with Princess Cruises. This is how an in-transit guest might take the tour. And we do have several guests who cruise from Vancouver to Whittier. They stay in transit and they do a shore excursion with us, and then they cruise 7 days back down to Vancouver. That's a great way to come and go out of one port, and sometimes you get to see different ports on your way southbound too. And then if you want to add the coach to it, let's say you're disembarking the ship in Whittier, this is the timing roughly, given the fact that I need to update those slides to 1 hour later on the return.
Okay.
This is Captain Cody. You might think he looks pretty young here, but he's been with us for 10 years. He's a very accomplished captain, and he knows our boats inside and out. He's such a valuable asset to our company. I like to brag about him a little bit. The boat that you see on the screen is the Klondike Express. She was designed in Sydney, Australia. She was built in Freeport, Washington in 1999, came to Alaska. She was the first of her kind designed to navigate these ice-filled waters in Alaska. And the hull on the front of the boat is reinforced with aluminum and steel, which if you're an engineer or someone who puts metals like that together, you might be thinking, well, those don't bond. But with dynamite, they do. So we actually blast those together. The aluminum keeps our boat nice and lightweight for cruising. That's how we can get that 32, 34 knot speed. And then the steel reinforces the bow. So if we do nudge some ice as we're going through there, you don't have to worry about a thing. And you can see the boat has 2 levels with those dark windows. So we have seating on the main deck and the upper deck. So obviously if someone can't do the stairs, then we have seating for them on the main deck, and they can easily get outside onto the bow here and view everything either inside through these large picture windows or outside on the deck. And we actually reserve this door on the forward port side for any of our guests that need special access to the bow. So then everybody else goes out the starboard side. Here's a quick shot of the bar. We always get questions, do you have a bar on board? And of course we do. And we serve a lot of Alaskan ales. This year we added some Alaskan hard seltzers to our list. And we have some craft ales from a local brewery here in Anchorage, and the Alaskan Amber and Alaska White from Juneau. I mentioned our seating earlier, and this is a look at the redesigned seating. So every customer will have a table, and the booths seat 2, 4, or 6 guests. Most of them seat 4, but we do have some 6 tops. And you can see on the picture to the right, the table is missing chairs on one side of it, and that's one of our ADA accessible tables. It's right up towards the bow. You can see all those windows there. You have a great view from that location of the table. And then just to your left of that is where the door would be to go out onto the bow. One thing we did when we refit the boat is you can see this little box here along the wall. That is a USB charging port. And every single table on the boat has those USB ports. So you can plug in your phone or your camera if you bring your cord with you, and you can recharge it. And people don't realize how cold their batteries get and how quickly they'll drain when they're out viewing the glaciers. So this has been one of the guest highlights, favorites, I would say, on board our boat for the redesign. I'm going to go back to the seating real quick for a second. We are getting a lot of questions about traveling this year and COVID. So right here at the headrest level, we've actually installed plexiglass barriers between every single table on board the boat. And that was above and beyond what we needed to do to operate this season. But we felt that that was the safest way for our guests to travel. So we can, you know, if we can't always have 6 feet amongst people, we've designed the vessel in a manner that has barriers in between folks. And that coupled with our required masks for everybody and our cleanliness on board, and our sanitizing stations all over the vessel, I think our owner has really thought of everything and putting that together for us this summer. Let's talk about the cute stuff. Are you ready for some wildlife? These are some of my favorite. These are the sea otters. And as you can see, the one on the right is holding a little pup. Well, in the months of May and June, we see lots of otters with pups as they're swimming around, and they're teaching their pups how to swim. Because believe it or not, these little guys, they just float. They don't know how to dive down and get food. So until they're about 4 months old, they're pretty well connected to their mom. These little birds are called pigeon guillemots. We see them quite often out at Egg Rocks. Here's one of my other favorites, the spotted seal. I just love this picture on the left. Big old yawn from that guy. And the seals, those little seals, they can be brown or gray. It's lots of fun to see them. Here's our stellar sea lions. These are the sea lions out at Eggs Rock that we see, and they are migratory. So at the early part of the season, if the sea lions aren't available, then our captain will go into an area called the Wally Norenberg Fish Hatchery. And in that area, you can see how wild Alaska salmon they have these areas where they help populate the salmon, but there's also many of them that go right up into the natural streams. So we're lucky to have all 5 species of salmon in Alaska. And where the salmon go, the seals go. Where the seals go, the whales go. So it can be Nature Channel Live out there some days for us. Just a couple days ago, we saw 4 black bears on our tour. And it's easiest to spot them in the early springtime, so early May cruises when we still have snow on the mountainsides, or once we get closer to August and things start to turn orange and red with the flora and fauna out there. Here's our beautiful humpback whale, and we've been seeing a number of orca whales this summer as well. So those are the quick slides that I have for you on Phillips Cruises. And I'll check and see if my Whittier presentation is pulling up, but I'd love to answer some questions before we go forward on that.
Okay, so I have one from Pam. She said, let me find it. She said, how many people on the ships and how long is the trip?
So depending on the vessel, the largest is 332, the bravest is 286, and the Glacier Quest is 149, and the trips are 5.5 hours on the 2 big boats and 3 hours and 45 minutes on the smaller boat.
Because the smaller boat goes slower.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I have one other question, and nobody asked, but I'm sure they're all thinking it. How accessible are the bathrooms on board?
You know, I wish I had pulled up a photo of that. I don't know if I can stop sharing my screen. I might be able to find one for you while we're talking.
Okay.
But they are on, I do believe I have a picture on our website and in the footer of our website on the seating tab.
Okay.
There should be a picture, but on the main deck and actually on the second deck. So if someone's able to navigate stairs, we have a restroom on each level that has all the handicap bars and baby changing table too, if you need that.
Okay. Well, I don't think anybody that's watching today needs the baby changing thing, but for some of them, having some grab rails makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, they might bring their grandkids. You never know.
Well, we had our granddaughter last year. You're talking about the Junior Ranger program. We did we went out with Major Marine out of in Seward. Did the Kenai Fjords, it's like a 5.5 hour tour, and they had the Junior Ranger program on board, and so she participated in that. She was 13, and it was kind of starting to be a little too hokey for her, but she did go up there and get her thing stamped and everything. She had a great time. She really enjoyed the trip. Both the cruise and the Kenai Fjords.
I don't think I'm going to be able to open the Whittier PowerPoint today. It's being finicky.
Okay. Well, like I said, if you share it with me somewhere, I'll put it into my video, because I will do a video. So now let me ask a question now. Is if somebody was coming, is it better to stay in Whittier, or is it better just to go to Anchorage and stay in Anchorage?
Well, it really depends on that person's travel style. I find Whittier to be very relaxing, and being a small seaside community, very small seaside community, we only have 200 residents there. And so it's kind of your own town. Once the cruise ship leaves for the day and the train's gone for the day, it's your own little hometown. And if you want to just curl up with a book, maybe at the inn at Whittier, and just gaze out at the water and just relax and unwind, that's perfect. If you want to be in Anchorage or Girdwood, Girdwood's just 45 minutes north, and it's a small community, about 2,000 or 3,000 people, right at the base of Alyeska Mountain. So it's a different type of environment. You're at the base of a mountain instead of at the end of a fjord, or end of Passage Canal, I should say. So if you want to be in a very dense boreal forest treat area, then I would probably go to Girdwood, and they have the Alyeska Resort there. They also have a number of VRBO properties or B&B properties. And then if you want to be more in the action, I would come up to Anchorage, and that way, you'll be in town by about 8:15. You can go out to a nice restaurant, have dinner, listen to some music, go to the Performing Arts Center, lots of things.
Yeah, in Anchorage it was interesting. We didn't allow any time in Anchorage, and it was one of those things I would do again. I would do a little differently, but I would also give myself another full day in Seward, because we spent one night in Seward. So we got in and we did a bunch of stuff, and we spent the night, and then we got on the ship. And there's a lot of stuff to do in Seward that we missed because we didn't build in some time there. And so if my memory serves me, since you probably know the route back and forth between Whittier and Anchorage really well, Alyeska has a tram, right?
Yes, they do.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, or is that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Happy to. So at the Alyeska Resort, they are at about 300 feet above sea level. And when you take the tram, I think it only takes it 12 minutes to go from sea level up to 3,200 feet at the top. And there is a restaurant up there. There's 2 levels of dining, actually. There's the Boardtide Cafe, which is more casual dining and great view looking out over Turnagain Arm and the Alyeska community. Or you can go to the very fancy Seven Glaciers dinner. And that is, if you want to treat yourself, if you're celebrating an anniversary or a special occasion, I would book ahead, get your reservations in there, and plan a night to do that, because the dinner is fantastic and the view is phenomenal. Okay,
so if I wanted to do that, and again, I'm throwing lots of questions that we hadn't talked about, but I think of things as we go.
That's okay.
So if I wanted to go to Alyeska, I could do the 26 Glacier Tour and take the bus and get off and stay at Alyeska?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. So you could go from the cruise ship onto our tour for the day, onto the bus to Alyeska Resort, and then you could take the tram that night, or you could do it the next day for lunch. Either way. Okay.
And then how's transportation from Alyeska back to Anchorage, or from Anchorage to Alyeska? Is that pretty easily accomplished?
So our coach could pick you up the next day and take you to Anchorage the next evening if you wanted, or there are other private transport companies that could come get you and then maybe you would want to do the Wildlife Conservation Center with them as part of that transfer, and then go all the way to Anchorage.
Okay, yeah, and I saw that, and that sounded like something that might be interesting. So there seems to be Whittier seems to be actually a really cool port because you've got the option of like I said, 26 glaciers in one day. That's better than Glacier Bay or pretty much any of the other places you'll go glacier sightseeing. And you get the, you can have your big city or your middle city or your tiny city.
Right. It's
Okay,
kind of like you make me think of
give you guys one more chance to post any questions if you have any. I really appreciate you being on, Lisa. This has been super fun. I can't wait to come back. Like I said, I am hopefully going to come on a Princess Cruise to Alaska. I've got a one that they owe me for some training I accomplished. So I'm kind of thinking that's what I'd like to do is come up and that would put me in Whittier. Like I said, I enjoyed Seward. I enjoyed southbound out of Seward. That was a lot of fun. Okay. Pam said to pass on her compliments for all this well-prepared presentation. She says this is the best one she's ever seen. Well, okay, I'm going to cry now. I'm hurt. I'm crushed, Pam. No, you've been a great guest, and I appreciated the slide presentation. You've done a really good job. And Marvin said that he would love the tram. I said, hey, Marvin, I have the same situation. I'd be able to ride the tram up and back. He said there's no chance of getting his wife that high. My wife is not a fan of trams either. Pam and both said that, and Marvin both enjoyed the presentation.
Well, thank you.
Of course, I'm sure a lot of people will watch on the replay. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, do me a favor, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and you want to hit the little bell icon to get notified so that every week I have a new show, plus I post other videos during the week. That way you'll get notified and you can get a chance to see them. Anyway, I appreciate it very much. Lisa, if you want to hang around, we'll say goodbye to everybody else. Thanks for being here for the show live tonight. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you on the next show.